Are you planning on moving to Gulf Breeze, Florida? Then you have to watch this video. All right, guys, we're just gonna get straight into it. I'm gonna give you 9 things to know before moving down here to the Emerald Coast to Gulf Breeze, Florida. And we're gonna get started with number 1. Number 1, kind of an obvious one, but it's a coastal town. There are a lot of areas that have canals. There are homes on the water, both the Soundside and up on the bay, and like I said, and canals. So sometimes you do have to look out for flood zones. There's a bunch of different flood zones in Florida, some that require flood insurance, some that don't, if you have a loan that is. So just something to know that along with a nice breeze and everything else, sometimes you have to look out for other costs when purchasing a home. Number 2 are the residents. So we have a pretty diverse population here in Gulf Breeze. We've got a lot of Air Force, like military, Navy community. We've got, it's actually called a bedroom community, which means you have a lot of 9-to-5ers that drive into Pensacola for your 9-to-5 type jobs. But you've also got some retirees that move down here. You've got some seasonal residents. So you kind of have a lot of everything, which makes it really unique. Another thing that's really cool about the residents here in Gulf Breeze is that there's a lot of artists. So we actually have a pretty cool artist community, like arts and theater and things like that, like the arts in Pensacola. So a lot of them live in Gulf Breeze because it's a little bit cheaper. But that includes photographers, which gets us some really cool images of not only the beach and sea life and things like that, but also our blue angels. Okay, so number 3, the third thing to know when you move down here to Gulf Breeze is housing. It's probably one of the reasons you're moving down here is to live here. So you need to know what your housing options are. Gulf Breeze is a little bit more expensive than its neighbor, Navarre. You've got a lot more established neighborhoods, especially in Gulf Breeze proper. You've got a lot more communities because if you're looking at a map, it kind of like narrows down. There's a lot more waterfront homes, which makes it a little bit more expensive. But I'm gonna cheat and look at my notes here so I can give you some actual data. So for March of 2026, we're looking at an average sale price of $435,000, $649. So you are at a little bit higher price point. A lot of times, even when I have friends looking from like Fort Walton and Mariester area, Navarre, and even like Milton and Pace, I get a lot of people telling me that they're kind of shocked by how expensive it is. Well, Gulf Breeze, like I said, because there is a lot more waterfront homes, their average price point is a lot higher. So just something to think about. The absorption rate, and this again was from March of 2026, was 4 months. Now, what is an absorption rate, Kristen? Well, let me tell you. Basically what that means is if no other homes come on the market, you take the inventory that is currently there, it would take 4 months to sell off. Now, our market's a little bit crazy right now. I see the days on market go up and down. Like if you can ask me and I'll send it to you, but there's a market data sheet and things like that, and the lines are just crazy. So just know that it is a little bit on the high side compared to what we've seen over the last 3 to 5 years, but that still, it's a good, I like to call it a kind of a neutral market, and I won't get too much into the market stats right now, but we're talking about housing. But just know that there is a lot of inventory right now, but we've got a decent amount of buyers too, so things are kind of moving. Average days on market right now is 95. Again, that's a little bit high. We've seen over the last year or so, it's been a little bit on the high side for those numbers than compared to previous years. So just know that, again, that just means it's better for my buyers because things sit on the market a little bit longer. But like I've told you in other videos, if you are ready to purchase a house, when you find the right one, be ready to go. In February, there was 46 new listings added, as well as 37 closed listings. So you'll see that that number is a little different. We still had a little extra, it wasn't 1 for 1 coming on the market, that was coming off the market. And then there was 121 total active listings. So those are still the ones that are there for sale. Again, those are numbers from our market kind of goes, we don't get the data until the next month. So just kind of know that. Anyway, if you want real-time data though, for whatever month you're purchasing in or watching this video in, I am Kristen Weller. I am your local real estate agent here in the Panhandle. I service anywhere from Pensacola all the way to Destin 30A area. I would love to help you out. And if you are less wanting actual market data, like I said, reach out to me. All of my information is going to be up here on the screen, and I would be happy to send that over to you. All right, let's get back into it. Number 4, the big one, hurricanes. Yes, you need to be prepared for hurricanes. Now, our season is June through November. That doesn't mean we have hurricanes throughout the whole season. It just means you have to be prepared and ready for them. In the test of the last say 20 years, we've had, I think 3, maybe 4, you could kind of call, well, 4 hit the Panhandle that were major storms. So we had Opal, Ivan, Sally, and Michael. That was in the wrong order, but you get it. So, you know, that is, and they were big storms. So it doesn't happen very often, thank God. But when they do, they tend to happen really big. So just things to think about. I have another video on here that just talks all about hurricanes that you can go look at. Also, there's tons of weather, you know, apps and websites that you can check out as well. But if you have specific questions, again, feel free to reach out. Like, I am not your fear-mongering person. When we first moved here, I was pretty afraid of them as well. And again, like I've said in other videos, out of all the natural disasters, not that I want any of them, but I would rather have to deal with hurricanes because we get so much time to be prepared for them. So they are big and massive and scary, but we get a lot of time to prepare and to leave. All right, number 5, schools and education. Now, if this doesn't apply to you, skip on to number 6. But if it does, just know that the schools in Gulf Breeze, I'm gonna cheat, look at my notes again, they get a 7 out of 10 rating on greatschools.org. There are a bunch of different options though. So where I'm from in Illinois, you know, you've got your one area and you know what schools you're going to. Here, unless you live far into Gulf Breeze proper, so far on the west side of town, you might have different options of where to go to school, or different, you might be zoned for one school and then your kids' friends, you know, when they graduate to the next level, go to different schools. West Navarre Primary, West Navarre Intermediate School, and then Woodlawn Beach Middle School. There's also Oriole Beach, and then there's also a couple different high schools that you can go to. So there's Soundside High School, which is our brand new one for the 2026-27 school year. And there's also Gulf Breeze High School, and there's also Gulf Breeze Middle School. So there's a ton of schools, and those are just the public options. There's a lot of private options as well. And charter schools, things like that. So you've got a ton of options. For the most part, the feedback I hear from parents is that they love them all. So one thing is, scholastically in the Panhandle, all of the schools educationally are great. So it's just a matter of what fits your kids' needs and wants, and you know what you're zoned for. All right, so number 6, Gulf Breeze is kind of chopped up into areas. So you've got Gulf Breeze proper, which I've already talked about, is on the far west of town. Then we've also have Midway and Tiger Point. Going east to west, you've got Midway, then Tiger Point, then Gulf Breeze proper. Kind of the thing to think about it is Midway is the section between Navarre and Gulf Breeze. Tiger Point is where the golf course is and all the shopping. And then you've got Gulf Breeze proper. I don't know who came up with all these names, but this is just what they're named. Gulf Breeze proper is the area that is right next to the bridge going into Pensacola. There's also a couple other little areas. So you've got Oriole Beach, which is named after the Baltimore Oriole bird. They come down here in the winter to migrate. And then there's also Woodlawn Beach area. There is a boat ramp, a public boat ramp there. So you've got a couple little niches, if you will, within those 3 big areas, but those are the big areas. So what is your take on commute times? I would love to hear down below in the comments where you're from and what your commute is to work. Because that is one of the biggest discrepancies that I get from my clients. Some of them just want that 10-15 commute time, and some people just don't care. It depends on where they lived before. So for me, I lived in California once before, Chicagoland area. When we first moved here, I didn't care my drive because it wasn't any worse than where I came from. But we also lived in Clovis, New Mexico, where you could drive anywhere within 5 minutes. So it really depends, and I get that. So I would love to hear your take on it, and let me know down in the comments. All right, we're almost there. Number 8, if I can count, is outdoor recreation. So obviously it is a coastal town. You've got a lot of beach stuff to do, a lot of water activities. So kayaking, paddleboarding, boating, snorkeling, swimming, sunbathing, all that kind of stuff. But they also have, Gulf Breeze actually has a rec center. So that's great for our kiddos and stuff like that. But they have really cool adult leagues and things like that. So there's pickleball, there's tennis, there's an outdoor beach volleyball court. So some really cool things that you can get involved with in the community and get your exercise in outdoors. There's also a couple free public boat ramps, boat launches, things like that in the area. And then there's also a National Seashore Park. It's a park, but it's really just protected seashore area. But they've got walking and biking paths. There's lots of little hiking areas you can go back out through there and do. So it's really cool. So you have a lot of options if you do like to do outdoor activities. And finally, number 9 is shopping and dining. Now, Gulf Breeze does have a little bit more than Navarre, but not as much as Pensacola. So it's kind of nice that you're kind of in between both areas, but for the most part, you get everything you need in Gulf Breeze. There are a ton of restaurants, from barbecue, seafood, Asian food. There's a couple really good Mexican restaurants as well. And then obviously any kind of fast food that you want, coffee places, there's a lot of coffee places. So food-wise, you're good. There's lots of grocery stores as well. There is a Lowe's in Gulf Breeze. And then there's like an Ace Hardware store. There's a couple little boutique stores, things like that. There's also a clothing department store called, well, it depends on where you're from, but Bells or Beals. But there's tons of little options. But like I said, what Gulf Breeze doesn't have, you can hop over the bridge and go into Pensacola. There's a mall. There's also everything else you want, Target, that kind of stuff. So you're close enough to all the stuff if you don't have what you need in Gulf Breeze, but there is a lot there. So that's one thing that's a little bit more of a perk than say Navarre or Mary Esther even. It does have a little bit more stuff. All right, that does it. Those are the 9 things that you need to know before moving down to Gulf Breeze. Did anything shock you, anything surprise you, or was it pretty much what you expected? I would love to know. But as always, I hope that you gained something from this video. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and make sure you hit the bell so that you don't miss another video that I drop. Real estate does not have to be stressful. I make sure that my clients are as stress-free as possible. I walk them through step by step from the beginning to the end, and hopefully we have a little fun along the way. So I hope to see you next time on my next video, and until then, have a great day.